In-law issues have been a big one, a big thing for them, and truly has created such tension and issues in their relationship that some people really were on the verge of deciding that it's either your family or me. Hi, Kingsley here. In this video, we will dive into the important topic of setting boundaries with your in-laws. Boundaries with in-laws starts now. Now, as you might be well aware that this topic can be a tricky one, right? It's a topic that many couples struggle with, but with the right guidance and mindset, I believe that you can navigate this challenge and create truly a healthier dynamic within your family, but also in the relationship you have with your in-laws. But it's a tricky dance. It requires certain skill sets. It requires certain approaches. And we're going to talk about those in this video. Now, you also hear the story of Sarah and John, our fictional couple, who experienced tense moments over in-law issues. And I don't know if you have had any, but you probably will relate to either Sarah or John or both as we share that story with you in a little while. Now, if you're struggling with in-law issues, can I tell you this? You're not alone. You're not alone. As a marriage and family therapist, and having done this for so many years, I've experienced in my sessions with so many couples have had their own struggles at some point in their relationship. The good news is that there are things you can do to overcome in-law issues and create healthy relationships all around, like I mentioned before. I want to say right up front that I thank God that having been married for almost 4 decades, yes, you heard me right, almost 40 years, just right on the edge of that. Both my parents and my wife's parents have died, have since died. But while they were alive, one of the blessings that we truly cherish is that we all kind of, as it's saying go, we all get along. We didn't have a relationship, in-law issues. And so I'm thankful to that. So I know that firsthand. I didn't experience that, but I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand with couples I've worked with. I've seen it with family members or friends that I've known. I've heard the stories and I've seen some of that as well. So I know it can be a very tricky issue and a very delicate dance that you have in trying to figure a way how to bring this thing to the forefront and address it. Now, I want to begin with 3 questions I'd like to pose to you at this very beginning. And here's the first question. Are your in-laws creating an issue with you and your partner? Second question, have you tried setting boundaries with them? And the third question is, what steps would you take to establish healthy boundaries and strengthen your marriage? Now, we're going to kind of unpack those questions throughout this video. So I want to ask them up front and have your mind going as we unpack this video. To set the tone then for this video, let me share with you this right up front, the story of Sarah and John. What that will do is give you a context for the rest of the video. Now, Sarah and John have been married for some time, have 2 children, and they were struggling to find healthy balance with their respective in-laws, right? John's parents and Sarah's parents. And they were struggling because both parents were, in a sense, encroaching upon their relationship, because Sarah's parents would drop by unannounced, causing tension and interrupting their private time, family time. And they felt that Sarah's parents felt that the kids needed to see them, and they wanted to see the kids as well. Now, meanwhile, John felt overwhelmed by the constant demands and expectations from his own parents, but also was getting weary of Sarah's parents stopping by unannounced and, in his mind, have no respect for their time. After a long day of work and coming home, it's the last thing he wanted to deal with, but he had to. And not to mention that when they came over, they spent a longer time than he would really want them to, which even added to his frustration. So Sarah would get upset at times, though, when John would drop everything to be at his parents' beck and call, even when she had plans for them. And this also frustrates her. Now, as you can imagine, this began to take a toll on their marriage, leaving them feeling frustrated and disconnected. Sounds familiar? Any part of that? Do you identify with John or Sarah? Maybe, I don't know. Well, we will find out, and that's not the important thing I want to unpack, but I want to give that story to you to kind of guide our conversation today in this video. Now, with the story as a backdrop, the topic of setting boundaries with in-laws now may be difficult for some spouses. It may be for you as you listen. You might find yourself as Sarah and John, and you just don't know what to do. You feel frustrated and you're upset, but you're sitting with it, and your marriage is being impacted by that. Now, here's what as I mentioned, setting boundaries is never easy for many reasons. For many reasons, it's common to worry about hurting your in-laws' feelings, causing tension in the family, or even feeling guilty for putting your marriage first, right? For whatever reason, maybe it's what you were told, and maybe it's a part of your spiritual context, and maybe you're trying to, in your words, honor God and honor your parents. And this is one of those things that if you're going to honor your parents, and this may not be right what to do as setting boundaries. So there's a number of moving parts that could be going into why this may be not easy for some spouses. But here's the thing: boundaries are essential for a thriving marriage. I believe that by setting clear expectations and honoring each other's needs, you can build a stronger foundation for your relationship and honor your marriage and honor God and honor your spouse, your in-laws as well. So here I want to share with you three, what I believe is understandable objections that a spouse, or maybe you, might have to this idea of setting boundaries. Number one, you may say, I don't want to hurt my in-laws' feelings. And I would say to you, I think that's a good start. You don't want to hurt, but can you decide how they choose to feel when you set boundaries? Is that your place? Second objection you may have is, or some spouses have, is, I'm afraid it will create tension within the family. Really? So aren't you having tension in your family right now? Third objection might be, I just feel guilty for putting my marriage first. I just feel guilty that I'm going to have to set boundaries and put my marriage first. Oh, really? Okay. Well, let's see where that's going to get you eventually. I don't want to get too much ahead of myself, but I want to put that out there because just in case you're thinking that or have heard that, then I wanted to mention that up front, because as I unpack, we're going to try to knock down some of those objections that you may have, and it may be unfounded. And it may be not based upon anything that's really factual or scriptural or biblical or spiritual, but you may have them in place anyway. Now, while these concerns are valid, I'm not somehow dissing them. Remember that setting boundaries is not about shutting out your in-laws, right? It's not about shutting them out or being disrespectful. It's about establishing healthy limits that respect your marriage and allow for mutual understanding and growth. You're putting your marriage first, which should be the case. Now, I would love for you to comment below whether you agree or disagree with what I've just shared. And also, while you're at it, I'm going to ask you to do three quick things. Smash that subscribe button. Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. Click the button, the like button, and hit the notification bell. All right? Subscribe right now. Please do that. This is one way to show your support for the channel, and let me know that you want more content like this. So that's why I'm asking you to smash that subscribe button right now, and let's kind of push the numbers up. And I really appreciate that. Now, if you're struggling with any of these objections of what I've just shared, I encourage you to keep watching. I'll share some tips that can help you overcome these challenges and in turn build a thriving marriage. Now, by the way, if you're now new to this channel and wondering who am I and to be speaking on topics like this one, let me just say I'm Kingsley Grant, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified relationship coach. And I've also been married for almost 40 years, as you heard me mention earlier. And what I do basically is equip married couples, married professional Christian spouses, with the necessary tools and resources that they need to take responsibility for their own happiness and create a healthier and more fulfilling marriage. That is my mission, right? To equip married professional Christian spouses with the necessary tools and resources to take responsibility for their own happiness and create a happier and more fulfilling marriage. And as I mentioned before, having counseled so many couples, I've heard, as you can imagine, all the different stories, the good, the bad, the ugly, and in between. And so I think it has pretty much qualified me, along with my years of marriage, to be speaking on topics like this. So I hope you'll appreciate that. Now, let me also recommend that you listen to my podcast at happiermarriagesecrets.com, happiermarriagesecrets.com. Click on the podcast menu, and you can have access to all my episodes that I've done. Over 50 episodes are there on different topics, and you will truly enjoy that. And you can go ahead and binge listen, take me with you on your walk, in the park, in your drive, wherever you go. Just plug it in your ear and listen to Happier Marriage Secrets podcast. Okay, make sure you do that. And at the end of this video, I'll share with you how to get access to some free resources that I have to offer. Now, as stated earlier, setting or even attempting to set boundaries with in-laws can be tricky, right? It's not easy. Now, here's one way to balance the concerns that you may have or other spouses may have of setting boundaries. I want you to think about the benefits. Think about the benefits. That's how we're going to balance things out. Think about what the benefits are when you do that, right? When you implement healthy boundaries, what's going to happen is you're going to experience increased marital intimacy, improved communication, as you will find out in the case of Sarah and John, and a stronger foundation built on trust and respect. Because as you can imagine, in Sarah and John's situation, maybe yours, these things are creating the opposite, right? But if you want increased marital intimacy, improve your communication, and a stronger bond and foundation and togetherness, then these are some benefits that you can have when you set healthy boundaries. So let me share with you 3 quick benefits on what I've just said. You're going to strengthen marital intimacy, right? You're going to, number 2, you're going to improve your communication with your spouse. Those are great benefits to have. And you're going to build a foundation of trust and respect. Imagine that John and Sarah were experiencing this in their own relationship, right? When they're able to set healthy boundaries, if they could, and if they did, that would be a tremendous help to their marriage. Now, boundaries can create an environment where you and your spouse can prioritize each other's needs. It allows you to deepen your connection as you wrestle with and try to figure out a way to navigate this very tricky dance. And what it does eventually is ensure that you have a sense of a harmonious relationship. You feel like you're together, and in your in-laws case, they're going to honor your marriage because they see that you are truly respectful of that, and you're honoring that, and you're holding that up as high as God expects you to. And so they will eventually respect that as well, and respect you for what you're doing, because they would like the same thing for their marriage when they were just starting out. So what Sarah and John's story does is highlights the impact that I believe a lack of boundaries can have on a marriage. Now, it's essential to address these issues and don't wait for something to happen. Just be proactive and try to find a solution that I believe honors your marriage first, and also your relationships with your in-laws, which could be a spillover. So you start with your marriage, and then that spills over to your in-laws and others, hopefully. If it doesn't, you're still going to make sure your marriage gets first place. Now, how can you implement these boundaries with your in-laws? Now, before I give you 3 practical ways to do so, I want to encourage you to at least try to gauge where your marriage is right now, because these things that are working in your marriage, like this in-law issue or other issues, may be taking a toll on your marriage and you don't even realize that. The last thing you want to do is wake up one day and realize, wait a minute, why isn't my spouse acting this way? Why is he or she pushing for separation or even a divorce? So it's better to know ahead of time and be proactive. And one of those ways is taking an assessment and a quiz, a very short quiz that truly can give you a sense of what's happening in your marriage, where your marriage might be, and also some helpful suggestions as what to do about what the quiz might show. Now, if you're interested in taking this quiz, which I think you should, especially when you're having in-law issues, head over to happiermarriagesecrets.com, happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz, and take this less than 90 seconds. You can finish this quiz and you'll get a downloadable PDF that tells you explains the results of your quiz and allow you what to know what the next steps might look like. So again, at happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz, take that quiz, and the link will be in the description that follows this video. Now, how do you set boundaries with your in-laws now? Now, I want to share 3 practical ways to get started. Number 1, communicate openly with your spouse about your expectations and concerns. Bring that up first in the conversation with your husband or your wife. Don't try to circumvent that, to get around that and speak to the parent that is not your parent. So, for example, Sarah needs to speak to John about what's going on and her experience with his parents and them calling at whatever time they want to call and disrupt their plans. And John needs to speak to Sarah about what's happening and his concerns, his expectations about what's going on. Neither of them should go around each other and speak to the parent of the other person, because number 1, you want to protect that relationship you have with them. You also want to allow that child to be the one to bring it up, but not to throw you under the bus, but to bring it up because they also feel that they need to protect you and have your back and speak on the behalf of the marriage. And so take ownership. Don't try to make it seem as if you're only doing this because your spouse is upset, because that's not going to be good for the relationship you need to have with your in-laws and for your spouse to have with your own parents, right? So communicate openly with your spouse and have that conversation first. Secondly, set clear boundaries, right? There must be clarity, and set them and express them kindly, but assertively, firmly to your in-laws. They need to know how important this is. They don't need to have to guess where you stand on this issue, right? You want to be respectful and kind, but you want to be firm in what you're asking them. In this case, Sarah may say to her parents, which is John's in-laws, Mom, Dad, listen, I know that you want to see the kids. I know they want to see you, but I want to make sure that we set that up in an orderly manner. How can we do that? Because I think it's very disruptive and it's not helpful for us if we make some plans and then you show up and it throws us out because it was unannounced, and we need to make sure we have our family. And I'm sure Mom and Dad, you understand this, right? Because you raised us, I'm sure you understand this. So appeal to their own conscience and their heart as well. And John may also say to his parents, set clear boundaries. Dad, Mom, or whoever is calling, we need to plan a time when you can call, but this call whenever you want, just for anything. It's not an emergency. We need to kind of cut back on that to some, because it takes me away from being with my wife and the kids and helping out whenever that need is. So I would really appreciate for us to set up something that works best for all of us. What can that be? Invite them in a collaborative way to come up with what that boundary would look like. But once, whether they do or not, you got to be firm and express kindly what you're asking for. And thirdly, this is the most important one, I believe, is you want to seek guidance from the Lord as far as from the Bible, to pray about this and look at scriptures, what God said about, your marriage, and see what he said. And by you having heard it before, but you want to honor your marriage while you're maintaining a healthy relationship with your in-laws. But your in-laws come second. And the Bible says, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. That no man clause includes your family of origin. they don't take first place anymore once you get married. And so you want to act biblically, and you want to pray and ask God for wisdom to soften their hearts, prepare your hearts, so you can speak the truth in love, so they can hear you, right? So you want to make sure you bathe what you're about to do in prayer and through scripture. Ask God to give you wisdom, because this is very critical and very important, again, because you want to honor God, and he will give you the wisdom and know how to approach this. Now, by openly discussing your boundaries with your spouse and clearly communicating to your in-laws what you're asking, seeking guidance from God through the scripture, I believe you can establish a healthier dynamic, right? A healthier marriage, a healthier way to prioritize your marriage. And I believe also foster the understanding with your in-laws. And you know what? They may not initially like it, but they will appreciate how much you're defending and standing up for your marriage, standing up for their child. So they will respect and admire that you're standing up for their daughter, for their son, and you want what's best for him or for her. So they will respect that if you present it in the right way. So also, if you're struggling with your in-laws issues, I encourage you to follow these suggestions I made. And if needs be, reach out for help from professionals, all right? Because there's also many resources available that you can avail yourself to, books and videos and courses and so on. But I think that if you really want to get a quick help, you may want to then reach out to a professional who can help guide you in this process. It's important that you address this. So I want to say thank you for joining me on this transformative journey. It's a very tricky one towards overcoming this idea of speaking up on setting boundaries with your in-laws. And I think that when you are able to do that, you're going to honor the marriage, honor God, and honor the relationship with your in-laws. So thanks for watching. And before you go, make sure you smash that subscribe button, hit the like button, and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of the videos posted on this channel. And remember to listen to the Happier Marriage Secrets podcast by going to happiermarriagesecrets.com and get your free access, right? All the links mentioned today are in the description below. Again, I'm Kingsley Grant, and I focus on what keeps you up at night, worrying about what to do about your marriage. With that said, let's go and make marriages happier again. Until next time, peace out. God bless. And I'll see you on the next broadcast on this channel. Please share. God bless.